Okay, so I want to start talking a little bit about program control. This is like if-then statements. So if some variable is true, then do something, and else state if something is true, then do something else, do something else. So I want to talk about that stuff. I want to talk about loops. In other words, let's say there's something that I want to do repetitively. I want to talk about how I can do that. Those are going to be the main things that I want to talk about today. Um, we're going to end up doing a lot of stuff, I think, but let me get started with, all right, let me get started just with regular if statements. Okay, now we're going to be writing functions next week, which will make a lot of this make a little more sense, or maybe not make more sense, but seem more natural, um, because then we can actually do practical things with if-then statements. A lot of what we're going to be doing today is just kind of teaching you how to do if-then stuff, but we'll get to some very practical things. So I don't know why I'm keep rambling on about what we're going to be doing. Here's what we're going to do. Okay, so let's just say I have some variable, I'll call it x, and it's going to be equal to some number. Right now, I'm going to set it equal to 5. You know, typically, we won't know the value of f before we write this part of the code, but this is just to illustrate basics of how if statement works. If statements work. Let's say that whatever x is, my goal is if, and this might sound familiar to some of you, if my number x is divisible by 3, I want to display the word fizz. If the number x is divisible by 5, I want to display the word buzz. If it's divisible by 3 and 5, I want to display fizzbuzz. And if it's not divisible by neither 3 nor 5, I just want to print the number x. And let's say no matter what, I also want to print the number x. So like the output I would want from this would be something like 5 buzz. Or if x was 6, I might want 6 fizz. And if it was 7, the output would just be 7. Okay, so let's see how we can do this. Okay, so Python, all languages have if-then statements. Most of them are pretty simple, so is Python's. So we're just going to write the following. So what we want to know is, so I'm going to write this in a way that is not going to be right and then show you how to fix it. So if x, so okay, what I want to do, if x is divisible by 3, I want to print fizz. So if x is divisible by 3, okay, so Python doesn't know what the phrase is divisible by 3 means. So how do we do that? So here's another good example. So let's set this aside for a moment, and let's learn about the modulo operator. So the modulo operator is percent. It's like division, but instead of returning the quotient, it returns the remainder. So if I do something like 13 divided by 2, I know the answer is 6.5, and when I run this, it's going to tell me, yes, 6.5. But what if I want to know the remainder? I want to do 13 divided by 2, and I want to know the remainder. Well, I do 13% 2. Okay, the remainder here should be 1, so when I run this, I should get 1. Okay, so let's say I want to do something like 15. I want to divide 15 by 4 and take the remainder. So the remainder here should be equal to 3. So when I run this, I'm going to get 3. Okay, if you've taken one of Oksana's sort of transition classes, you've seen the modulo operator before. Now that's all we're doing. We're modding. We're doing 15 mod 4. That's what's happening here. Okay, so up here, I want to know, okay, if 3 is even, so sorry, if x is even, or sorry, if x is divisible by 3, is equivalent to saying that when I divide x by 3, the remainder is 0. So this, if x percent 3 double equals 0, is true. So what does this mean? So double equals is the logical equals. It's not assigning anything. So what this says, if x is equal to 3, sorry, if x mod 3 is equal to 0, then do something. So demonstrating this down here, I'm going to say 6% 3 equals 0. Okay, now I'm not assigning 0 to 6% 3. That's not what this is doing. This is an expression that's going to evaluate to true if 6 mod 3 is equal to 0, and it's going to evaluate to false otherwise. So I'm going to run this, and we get true. Okay, what about 6 mod 5? Okay, 6 mod 5 is not equal to 0, so when I run this, I'm going to get false. Okay, so up here, the type of thing that has to go here is something called a Boolean, which is either a true or false. So this statement in Python, if x%3 equals 0, this is the response is either going to be true or false. Like if I come down here and do x, so if x mod 3 is equals 0, this is either going to be true or false. When I run the code, I'm going to get false. Okay, if I change x up here, let's say to 6, let me comment this out for a second. I run this code, now I'm going to get true. Okay, so the thing that goes here, the thing that goes there has to be something called a Boolean. It's either true or false. Okay, so that means if this statement evaluates to true, then it's going to do what I'm writing here. And notice I am indenting. So Python structures its programs via indentation. So if you've programmed in like C or Java or C++ or languages like that, it sort of organizes its program chunks with the curly brackets. Python organizes its program chunks with indentation. So now everything that I write on, and like a colon here. So everything I write under here is going to happen only if this is true. So if x%3 is equal to 0, we want to print the number. So we did format strings. So we want to do this. So x will go there, and then we'll do fizz and dot format x. Okay, so what's going to happen if I run this? This is true because 6 mod 3 is equal to 0, so we should have x space fizz when we run this. Okay, and that's what we get, 6 fizz. Maybe you want to put a dot there too. So 6 period fizz. Okay, good. Now let's look at 7. So I should just get the number there. Oh no. So, all right. So I'm not going to get anything there. Why am I? Sorry, I missed a line here. So why am I not going to get anything? Well, if 7 mod 3 is not equal to 0, so it's not going to run this line. Okay. So now I want to say if x%3 is if x%3 is not equal to 0. So this, the not equals, is exclamation mark equals 0. So this is if x mod 3 is not equal to 0. Then what do we want to do? We just want to print this period like this. Okay, so now when you run it, we should just get a 7. Okay, and that's what we get. Okay, but now we want to do the buzz thing. Okay, so if x%5 is equal to 0, what do we want to do? We want to print this dotted, and so not dot, or the dot is, I'm saying dot like it's a dot product, but that dot, buzz. Okay, and so now that's what we want to do. Okay, so now if I run this for 7, so if x%3 is not equal to 0, print this. Okay, so we might be starting to get to the point where the logic here is getting a little confusing, but let's just run this and see what we get. Okay, 7, this looks good. Okay, what about 6? Is it going to work on 6? Okay, fizz. Okay, what about 10? This should say buzz, right? Okay, but look what's happening here. It has 10 buzz and 10. Why did that happen? Well, x mod 5 is equal to 0, so it does this. But notice here, x mod 3 is also not equal to 0, so it prints that as well. So we want to do this. So what we want, like the logic statement that we want. So think about what we want. If x mod 3 is not equal to 0 and x mod 3 is not equal to 5, then we print. So we can write it like this. And x mod 3 does not equal to 0. Now we should just get 10 buzz. Oh, well, I meant to put a 5 here. Now we should get 10 buzz. Okay, perfect. So the and here, the and here is what Python uses for the logical and. So other languages you might see double ampersands, like instead of and you might see something like this, but this is not right in Python. If you run this, we're going to get an error. So it just doesn't. That's not what we do. So we do and here. Okay, so let's go through this code. So if x%3, if x mod 3 is 0, print fizz. If x mod 5 is equal to 0, print buzz. If x mod 3 does not equal to 0 and x mod 5 does not equal to 0, we're just going to print the number. Okay, so this, if x is divisible by 3, print fizz. If x is divisible by 5, print buzz. If x is not divisible by 3 and x is not divisible by 5, just print the number. Okay, so now we're getting into the fizzbuzz thing. So I know I want if x%5 equals 0, that is if x is divisible by 5. And so by the way, like whether I have a space there or not is the same thing. I'm just putting space because I hope that makes it a little clear when I'm writing. If x%5 is equal to 0, in other words, if x is divisible by 5 and x percent 3 is equal to 0. And actually, just because I want to do 3 then 5 because 3 is bigger than 5, and that's the order that I'm going in other places. I want to keep it consistent. Okay, that's more than just a weird like pickiness that I have, which are a weird picadillo. I don't have those really. I'm not like an organized person, but it is good to do things like this to just sort of keep things consistent. Then it'll make errors stand out more. At any rate, then for this one we want to print the number and then fizz buzz. Okay, that's what we want to print. Oh, sorry, dot format x. Okay, so let's make this a number that's divisible by 3 and 5, 15. And I want you guys to think about what's going to happen when we run this code before we run it. Try to think about what's going to happen. I'm about to run it, so pause the video if you need to. Okay, I'm going to run it now. I've been hitting Shift Enter. Let me hit run. Okay, 15 fizz, 15 buzz, 15 fizz buzz. Okay, now that's not what we wanted. We only wanted to have this. But you can see what's happening here. 15 is going to get to this point in the program. If x%3 equals 0, print fizz. Yes, it's x mod 3 is equal to 0, so it does that. If x mod 5 is equal to 0, it prints buzz, so it does both of those. If x mod 3 is equal to 0 and x mod 5 is equal to 0, then do this, so it does all three of them. Okay, so there are a number of ways, very nice ways to solve this problem or to make this look better or to have this work. I'm going to show you one way in the next video. I'm going to show you one way in the next video and then show you some other things as well today.